Welcome to Stand Up for Doctors. I'm your host, Kim Downey. Thank you very much for joining us. This channel is dedicated to amplifying the voices of doctors, other healthcare professionals, and patients as they share their unique struggles, triumphs, and passions. My mission is to build connection and create advocacy for healthy doctors, driving positive change that benefits both doctors and patients. This is a space for everyone who cares about the future of healthcare. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe now. It really helps the episodes reach our target audience. And I would like to announce that we'll be hosting an amazing physician retreat October 9th to 12th 2026 at the Edith Macy Conference Center in Briarcliff Manor, New York. It will be a weekend to connect, empower, recharge, and celebrate. CMEs will be available. Please reach out for more information if you're a doctor interested in attending, or if anyone would like to sponsor our retreat, we can create sponsorship to fit your budget. And the registration link will be in the show notes. And today I'm honored to welcome Dr. Santhosh Paulus and CJ Quartlbaum. Thanks for joining us today, Santhosh and CJ.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having me.
having us, Kim.
You're welcome. And by way of a brief introduction, Dr. Santhosh Paulus is a physician at North Shore LIJ Health System, site director for graduate medical education at Huntington Hospital, and human trafficking response program task force lead. And CJ Quartlbaum is an executive coach, consultant, speaker, writer, and host of an anti human trafficking podcast for the organization Cycling for Change, founded by Santhosh. And today we'll be talking about the organization Cycling for Change, its work, and how doctors can become more aware of human trafficking and its implications and what you can do. So, thank you. This is a bit of a sidestep from my typical episodes, important nonetheless. And doctors like to save lives, and this is another way that we can do that. So, I feel like this is an important conversation. And I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Amna Shabir for connecting me with CJ. And CJ had me on his podcast, and then he connected me with Santhosh. So, thanks again, gentlemen. And I always start by asking what you'd like our audience to most know about you. CJ, would you like to go first?
Sure. What would I like your audience to most know about me? I guess all of the work that I do is from a place of passion and joy. I love helping leaders transform. I love helping us figure out how to be the best version of ourselves.
Hmm. That's beautifully said. Thanks. And Santhosh?
Yeah, I think what I would like listeners to most know is we all have a story, right? And so I think that we all sometimes when I'm doing this work, people think, oh, you're trying to help people and we are, but we all are broken to some extent and we all are survivors of something. And so I think that's important to come from that place of vulnerability and realize that, we all need a hand. We all are at times in need of a little bit of help and somebody to help get you to stand back up. And so we've all had those moments. And so that's kind of where I come from.
And that's so true. And this year I've been focusing on having episodes about trauma, trauma informed care, trauma informed coaching. And most of us have experienced trauma in our life, and everyone is walking around interacting with everyone else's trauma. So to understand and spotlight that is very important. And also, I like the way you say that because it feels like you were indirectly saying instead of helping, in some ways, what you're doing is serving, and that can have a different feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times as physicians, we have this mentality that we're rescuing or saving other people, and there's times that we're offering treatments and we're doing that. But I think in the work that I do, specifically in helping those that have been affected by human trafficking, it could sound like just seems like such a small niche of people that might be affected by human trafficking. But when you look at who's been affected by trauma, well, that's all of us.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, CJ, tell us a little more about yourself, a powerful story, how you connected with Santhosh.
Yeah. So Santosh and I met, gosh, 3.5 years ago, about.
Yeah.
Uh, in my day job, he's a regular attender there, and our families just got intertwined. And Santosh is he's just a really good person. And he said, "Hey, I see some things in you, and I'm looking at your background, and I'm wondering if you could help me out with this thing that I'm doing. It's a podcast for the anti-human trafficking network that he founded called Cycling for Change." And I don't know, to Santosh, he's a brother. So for us, this is it is a work of joy and justice, seeing broken things made right in this world. As I've learned more about human trafficking, and I knew a little bit. I used to run an organization where we did some work adjacent to the space, but now being in this work with Santosh, it's seeing on a real world, just ground level, just how pervasive and evil this is, and thinking of ways that we can help spread awareness and impact through our work.
Well, thank you for that, CJ. And Santhosh, this is the first time you and I are meeting, and I'm
Yeah.
so honored to meet you. If you could tell us a little more about your story and how you became involved in this work.
Yeah. There's obviously a long version and a short version. I'll go for the short one. I kind of summarize it in my mind as like the three N's. And that stands for like New Hampshire, New Year's Day, and what's the third N? We'll get to it when I start doing it. But I remember so every New Year's we would kind of have this thing with my kids. We would talk about goals and lifetime goals, things like that. And I had said I would love to be able to, at the end of my life, be able to sponsor 100 kids on a monthly basis. And that would be quite costly. And so I just wanted to be in a financial position to be able to do that. Um, the second end was New Hampshire. I was in a music festival where I heard from an organization that was doing anti-trafficking work in the Boston area, and I was honestly a little bit shocked. Just a lot of things happened in my mind and my heart. My kids were roughly between the ages of 7 and 14 at the time, and they were in my kind of vision, like my field of vision, as I was listening to the speakers on the stage. And I was just shocked at how much was happening here in our country locally. Just had a lot of myths in my own mind, and I just, thought, well, that happens elsewhere. Didn't really think that it was happening to such an extent here in America. And so that really bothered me. And the third N was 'cause Noah's Ark. I was I was teaching boys in Sunday school, and we were kind of going through the different characters. And so we were talking about Noah and talking about how he built this ark. And there was no rain, and people thought he was crazy and seemed like what are you doing? It seemed like some impossible task or mission. And so as an application to that, I told the kids, what is it that God's put on your heart that, that seems impossible and huge that people are going to laugh at and say, how are you going to do that? And it just seemed to make sense. All these things kind of merged together. I love biking, and I thought, why do I have to wait till the end of my life to make an impact in this space? And it just made too much sense to me to to try to bike across the country and raise some funds, raise some awareness to help fight human trafficking. And that's kind of like, I guess, the perfect storm where all those things kind of came together. Yeah.
Well,
Santosh, I love that what you just said there. Why do I have to wait until the end of my life? I think so often we're just waiting. I'm going to do it then. I'm going to do it at this better time. And there's never a perfect time. So
mhm.
I'm grateful that you jumped into the fight when you did and you didn't wait for the perfect day.
Yeah, it's such a myth, right? That we think that somehow that next season is going to be somehow better or easier, and
Mhm.
that season just doesn't come because that's not how life works. Yeah.
I've been waiting for life to slow down for 15 years now. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, Santhosh, so I know that your organization is Cycling for Change. Tell us a little bit more. So, have you already taken that bike trip across the country?
Yeah, so in 2015 we cycled from Washington State back to New York, so 3,400 miles, 34 days. We did it at that time. We raised that first summer we were able to give out $21,000 to Know Me Network and $14,000 to World Vision. And then, you know truth be told, it wasn't like I had a long-term vision for Cycling for Change. I was just looking to do this ride. Definitely, you were talking about kind of hiccups and kind of things, how life is not always how you plan it. I I had a pretty serious heart condition that was kind of uncovered in my training. I had biked about 2,500 miles over about a year and a half. And it was right around this time in 2014. It was right before Thanksgiving. Um, I was biking and I passed out, and I ended up getting diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So people say it's a good thing to have a big heart, but in this case, it wasn't a good thing. So, um, yeah, so it was different, right? So I ended up becoming the main RV driver for the trip, and I was it was hard for me. I That wasn't how I envisioned this. I definitely had a desire to cycle and to do that distance. And a lot of people thought, "Oh wow, you guys are not going to do the trip." And I said, "Well, nothing's changed." I said, "The horror and evil of human trafficking is still going on." I said, "Why wouldn't we continue?" It just my role changed significantly. We didn't think that we would continue. I just was planning to do this one and done. But when people hear that you're doing something that's a worthy cause and you're doing it for other people and it's bigger than yourself, all of a sudden there was this army of supporters behind Cycling for Change, and everybody wanted to know what was next. And I remember my wife and I were like, everybody just go home. We're good. Uh, there is no next. But then, yeah, so slowly we realized that, we felt a responsibility because a lot of us we need somebody to lead us in these causes, right? And so that was coming alongside survivors over the years, and those with lived experience, and being able to collaborate with them. Our organization has just grown kind of in an organic way. So every year we've been doing local walks, runs, cycling events, golf outings.
Mhm.
We just had our 10-year anniversary. We just did our cross-country Hope Tour. We had events in 6 cities across the U.S. and it culminated here in New York. And so, yeah, the work continues. The work is growing, and we continued. So we raise funds and awareness, but we also want to amplify the voices of survivors and to collaborate with those with lived experience in the programs and projects where we put our finances. And so that's kind of like where we're at and where we're heading.
Wow, I love that. And I love that you didn't give up and you adapted. And I wish the very, very best for you. I hope everything is, under control and that your health is okay.
Yeah, surprisingly, right before the cross country Hope Tour, I had done two half marathons in the past and done a lot of these athletic events and uh, biked long distances, and then I kind of mourned the loss of that and kind of just understood this was a new phase for me. And then unexpectedly, a year ago, I got the opportunity to be in a research trial, and all of a sudden I'm breathing better and have more stamina. And so now I'm feeling like I have this good problem of trying to figure out what my new kind of balance is in life. And playing basketball, my back hurts, which is like such a nice feeling because you're like, oh wow, I my back hurts because I ran around and jumped, and yeah. So that's what 2025 has been for me, was kind of redoing doing hills that I hadn't done in 10 years. Played basketball with my kids, threw out my back so bad that I had to miss work for a few days, and I was so happy. Like, yeah, I was like,
Right. Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
good pain.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, CJ, tell us about the podcast episodes, who you've had on, if there's a powerful story you'd like to share from that.
Oh man, we've recorded quite a few episodes. We've had Sandeep Kapoor, Jenna McKay, Santhosh, help me out. Who else has
Uh,
been on the
you had
podcast?
Sonia Kapoor
Yes.
with Jenna. Who else have you had? Molly England. You've had. I'm definitely missing a few.
Yeah. Please blame our heads and not our hearts. Um, but I will say the story of Jenna McKay. She is a human trafficking survivor. It is just, it's powerful and heartbreaking. Powerful in the resilience that this woman has displayed in her life, in rebuilding her life, in becoming what is honestly still growing into, but the best possible version of herself, but also heartbreaking in how many people missed along the way, how many doctor's appointments, how she didn't have language for what she experienced until she was out for several years. And this is something that I have found that when we talk about doctors being helpers, training physicians and being able to spot the signs that someone is being trafficked. Because Jenna could have experienced healing much sooner had the physicians known what to look out for. And that was a big thing that came out of her story.
Yeah, she wrote a book just recently called Grit and Grace, and that summarizes it all. And I had an opportunity to lead some sessions in our health system with Jenna through some efforts through the UN and through the global strategic operatives. That was the first time I had heard her speak. That was years ago before COVID. And there's so many misunderstandings or things that we just assume. In her story, I mean, it happened where she was in high school and was dating a person and ended up marrying the person who ended up becoming her trafficker. And so, you know, she just had a promising college scholarship for volleyball, and she was trafficked like minutes away from her home. And so, if you want to know more about her story, it's an amazing, amazing story. Now she's an advocate, does a lot of work, lobbying in the state of California, and just kind of on behalf of those who've experienced trafficking. But Grit and Grace is a powerful, powerful story of her kind of determination and the grit that she had to be able to get through some difficult times in her life.
Well,
And
thank you. We
that's
can
a
share the link in the show notes. Go ahead, CJ.
I was gonna say that that's a big thing that comes out of her story as well, is we have a picture in our mind of who the victim is. And we don't think, oh, the cute suburban girl with the volleyball scholarship. And in reality, there is a very significant portion of people, boys and girls, men and women, who are trafficked that don't look like the perfect victim, that look like the kid next door, that are trafficked and abused by the people closest to them. And
Yeah.
I think this is why education around this area is so important, because how much do we miss because the problem doesn't look like what we think it should look like?
Yeah, when I work with residents, and I always talk about if you don't consider the diagnosis, you're not going to make the diagnosis. And so there's plenty of times when you can't tell when someone's in front of you what is going on in their life. You just know they've experienced some violence and some trauma. You don't know if it's intimate partner violence. You don't know if it's just child abuse, not just, but
Right.
it's you don't know, and even the individual may not know that they wouldn't identify that as a trafficking situation. They know that when they were in as kids, they got abused by a family member, but now at least they're getting paid for what they're doing. And so they may not even self-identify as a trafficking victim or a trafficking survivor. And so that could take months, years, for them to come to that point where they may recognize that themselves. And so, yeah.
So, Santhosh, for any physicians listening or other people, what are the specific signs that you would like to share to raise awareness?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many red flags and signs as far as just physical appearance when somebody looks disheveled or if they're not dressed appropriately for the weather, unexplained bruising, things like that. That's kind of like obvious visual signs. There's so many, and there's some are like very non-specific and some are much more specific. So things like when somebody's not making eye contact with you, but that could be, just very general, like if somebody's depressed or something, they may not be making eye contact, right? So, um, I feel like it's very challenging to look at the red flags and say, "Oh, wow, this is somebody who's being trafficked in front of me." It's more just kind of shifting our focus and awareness and kind of providing care that's in a way that's trauma informed, being non-judgmental. That's just good patient care for everybody, getting to know their story, like, what happened to you? Like, a lot of times we think what's wrong with you? Like, why are you not answering my questions? Like, you came here for help, so now why do you want to leave against medical advice, right? Like, so we forget that the way that we approach patients is important. And so that's kind of what we really focus on. Common Spirit and Heal Trafficking, they put together this tool called the PAIR tool. And that is the essence and crux of kind of like what is important when you're seeing a patient. And that stands for providing privacy, educating, asking, respecting, and responding. And each of those areas, they sound really simplistic and just really like, yeah, that makes sense. You want to provide privacy. But when you have a patient in the ER and the ER is packed and there's patients in the hallway and you're sitting here asking these very tough questions, they're not going to want to really open up to you. And so by the way to establish that trust and rapport is to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be an advocate for this patient. Let's get them into a private space and ask them some questions in private. And we've seen that where patients are just very belligerent, not cooperative, and we call a code gray, and then you have like this presence of force there to kind of make people, and it has its time and place. I've seen the opposite happen here where we say everybody just leave. Social work is like, you know what, I'm just going to take this patient on my own and talk to this individual. And all of a sudden, they're agreeable to having their vitals checked and having blood drawn. Um, and so at the end of the day, as physicians, we need to establish trust and rapport and connect our patients with the resources that they need. And in a sense, it's a chance for us to stay in our lane and just do what we do well. Be a physician, be a doctor, provide care. That's what we need to do. And then when that trust and rapport comes, you take care of those needs, whatever that might be, whether it's legal help, whether it's just being safe for a few days while they figure out what's going on. That sometimes you need to just admit patients if there's nothing medically going on, but we need to get them into a safe place. But yeah.
Hmm. So, CJ, in your podcast episodes, is there anything you'd like to share to be a voice for the victims, like some more of the stories you've heard or what they want people to know?
I think if there's anything, I think it's what Santosh was just talking about. It's the importance of creating trust and safety. I like to call it the art of asking the second question. What we will often do is say, "Hey, how you doing?" And people go, "Oh, I'm good, I'm okay." Sometimes, I think a lot of the time, people just want us to go, "Are you really? Are you sure?" Because that can be this disarming thing that allows people to go, "Oh, I can share with you what's really going on. You are a safe person for me to open up with." It's almost second nature for us to just go, "Yep, I'm okay, everything's good." But when someone asks one more time, it usually unlocks something in us. And so if there's any encouragement I can give, it's be willing, physicians, just ask the second question. If you're sensing something is off. My son just turned 5 today, so I'm thinking about Spider-Man. If your spidey sense is tingling, follow that. Hey, can I just talk to you alone for a minute? Hey, can you tell me about this? Just those little, just being willing. And I know this is hard for doctors because I have my frustrations where I'm like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you and it's in and out. But if we can just have this ability to slow down and see people where they are and really get to know them. And I know doctors are in a rush, but this is literally life-saving work. So ask that second question.
I do love that art of asking the second question, like, how are you really? And asking a second
Mhm.
time, and then it shows that you really do care. And it's not just a perfunctory question. So, thank you so much for spotlighting that. So, Santhosh, what else would you like to share? What do you want to tell doctors?
Um, Kind of going on what CJ was talking about is like, as a physician myself, like I know what it's like and I know what we need to do, right? I'm training other healthcare providers on what to do in those scenarios. And I've literally been in that situation where I feel really pressed for time and I don't have the time to give what I want to give or what I need to give. And so you have to trust your team and empower your team. And
Mhm.
so, the nurses are amazing. They spend so much more time at the bedside than I do. And so, as a team, I've had situations like that where social work has already taken care of the things that I knew I wanted to do. And I talked to the patient, and then oh, yeah, the social worker already spoke to me about that. I'm like, wow, our team performed well. The team looks to us as physicians as the leads, and so we need to help promote a culture where we say, yeah, like, so words matter, right? And so how we refer to patients, there's certain words that we should be using, other ones that we shouldn't be using, because some of them are loaded, right? And so we're really trying to move away. people say things like, "Oh, that's a prostitute," right?
Mhm.
That's an individual who's been prostituted, right? So
Mhm.
bringing back the humanity into the conversation, like there's, and so as a physician, those are quick, easy ways to establish culture and lead by example and saying no. We use all these terms like frequent flyers and oh, this drug-seeking patient and like all these things, right? No, like let's bring the humanity back into it. This is a person that's sometimes we have stories where individuals were not doing drugs and then they got into a trafficking situation. Their trafficker introduced them to drugs to have control over them. So everyone's got this story, and when you dig a little bit deeper, you go, "Oh wow, okay, maybe it's not quite how it appeared from the surface and on the outside." Yeah.
That's important to spotlight that language in a more extended way because I learned as a physical therapist, and I'm sure you did as a doctor, is you don't call somebody like the Parkinson's patient. It's the person with Parkinson's, right? The people first language and
Yep.
extending that to these situations and also how your team can help you and support you. So it's educating the whole team. Those are really great points. I'd also like to ask each of you what I would wonder, guess is it hard if they're in a situation at the moment where they're being trafficked? Is it hard to get them alone to ask them these questions? Like, do they usually come with their abuser, the one that's in charge of them?
I mean, that's a really challenging thing. Like we obviously do a lot of training with our healthcare providers because you don't know if the family member that's with them, are they a supportive family member or are they a part of the abuse and the manipulation and the exploitation? Sometimes employers are with their patients and you're just like, well, that's kind of odd. Why would the employer be there? Are they extremely caring and just trying to help out? Or is there something else going on there? So it's challenging. So sometimes you have to always remember that the patient is used to their control being taken away and being told to do this or told to do that. And so you ask every patient, we say, hey, who's here in the room with you? What's your relationship? Do you mind if I share your medical information in front of them? You give them that ability to do that. And then you have to kind of trust sometimes patients' body language doesn't match with what they're saying. And so then you have to kind of take it at face value in that moment. They said that, so you have to trust it. But then you can kind of get creative and say, hey, I need to get a urine sample from you. Why don't we head to the bathroom? And then you just ask a simple question, do you feel safe? Have you eaten today? Like, do you have a primary care physician? These are we're trying to broaden our approach in these situations because the answer to any of those questions is there's something to do in those settings. If they haven't eaten, if they don't have a doctor, if they're not feeling safe, we have to do something about those situations. That allows us to establish more time and more trust and rapport, and then to be able to ask those more difficult questions. Take them for a chest X-ray, and
Mhm.
say, we need to have you step out now. Sometimes, we just say plainly, we say, now we're going to do the physical exam. I just like for everybody to step out of the room. And if there's like some tension there and they don't want to leave, I mean, you don't force the issue, but that just like CJ was saying, your spidey senses are tingling now, and something's not quite right here.
Well, thank you for giving specific, very specific examples of ways that you could handle the situation if your spidey senses are tingling. And also, I feel like this conversation is just raising awareness. And now your spidey senses might be tingling where they might not have before. So that's, I think, the purpose of this is to just raise awareness. So any links that you wish us to share in the show notes, please forward to me when we're done. And also, happy birthday to your son,
Thank
CJ.
you.
That's wonderful. And so, as we wind down, CJ, any last words that you have for physicians or their colleagues or anyone, and also how our listeners can get in touch with you?
Last words would be do not look at this as an out there issue, as an over there issue. It is pervasive everywhere and it can touch every single one of us. None of us, no matter what kind of lives we think we've built for ourselves, are so untouchable that a single phone call couldn't change our lives. And if that is true, I think a part of us being in this world and doing the most good that we can is caring for those around us. So this is an issue that's near and dear to our hearts, obviously. And I would hope that it hits all of us. You can find me on Substack at tellmemorewithcj.substack.com, on LinkedIn under my name, CJ Quartlbaum, and then on Instagram at CJ underscore Quartlbaum.
Well, that's great. And thank you. You're doing so many wonderful things. I think you're really awesome. And I feel so blessed to know you. And I'm happy that Amna connected us. And hopefully, since you're not that far away, I hope that we get to meet one day in person.
I'm coming up to Connecticut soon, and we're gonna grab lunch.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. I'm there. And Thosh, what else would you like to share with our audience and how our listeners can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think a common theme here is in isolation, none of us do well. And so I think we need to collaborate, we need to work together as teams, we need to be there for each other. I think that when as an individual and we're going through issues, right, there's shame and there's kind of just guilt or just different things that make you want to isolate. And it's not healthy, it's not good. We need accountability, we need encouragement, we need others to be around us. And similarly, like this is a way for us as a community to reach out to those that are marginalized in our communities and to be there for them. And so, Cycling for Change, we have walks, runs, cycling events, and there's a virtual way to be involved in what we're doing. So, yeah, if you're in the New York area in October, we'll be having our annual Hope Fest. But yeah, you could join us virtually from wherever you're at, and that would be the best way to get a hold of me is through cycling the number 4change.org. And there's links there as far as to get more information or to if you want to be a volunteer, if you want to start something up in your own neck of the woods. We're always looking for folks to join us in the work that we're doing. And time and time again, I've been told that we when people come alongside other people, they feel like they're not alone and they feel like they have hope again. And that's what Cycling for Change is about. We realize that hope changes everything. And so yeah, that's what we're about.
I love that. So when in October is that event?
It's the first Saturday in October. I think it's October 3rd off the top of my head.
Okay, great. Because then our physician retreat is the next weekend. So anyone who's flying in, they might like to extend their trip and come for a week, right? And
There
then
you
they could
go.
participate.
October 3rd.
Absolutely.
I just looked it
Well,
up real quick.
Oh, okay, terrific. And our retreat is the 9th to the 12th. So that will be great. It will be a wonderful reasons to come to New York for a week.
And New
And
York is great in the fall, so come on out.
it sure is, right? Leaf peeping season.
that's right.
Yeah, and Santosh, also what other doctors have shared with me is, obviously the system needs to change, right? And there are so many limitations faced on face what the doctors are facing that prevent them from having the time with patients that they want to have. And that's something that we need to address. In the meantime, it seems to me that this work you're doing is filling your cup. Sometimes doctors are sharing that they do something on the side. So when they're frustrated, in their day-to-day lives, it's something else that fills their cup. And whether it's Doctors Without Borders, or something like
Mhm.
you're doing, it helps them find meaning and purpose in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, compassion fatigue is real. And so you still have to be very careful. I mean, we're talking about Jenna McKay earlier. I had a really long clinical day one day, 12, 13-hour day, and I usually don't put on regular meetings at the end of the day, and we did, and Jenna was on there, and I was really frustrated because I'm going home so late, and I had to come back to the hospital the next morning early, and then she sent me a message and just talked about how it meant so much to her that we had talked about the things we did in that meeting, and it just gives her the energy and the motivation to keep going and to keep doing what she's doing, and I was like, holy cow, wow. So yeah, I guess we are making a difference, and we're doing things that are impactful and meaningful. But you have to take care of yourself because there's 24 hours in a day for everybody. And a lot of times we neglect ourselves when we're taking care of other people. As parents do that with their kids, right? And so, they always talk about on the airplane, right? Like the first person to put the oxygen on is yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be any good to other people. You'll become a part of the people who need help rather than people who can help. And so, it's a challenge and it's a fine line. Sometimes the work is life-giving, and other times I have to be careful because
Yes.
really go to dark places in your own head because it just seems hopeless and pointless and can be very challenging.
It's very important to spotlight that as well, compassion fatigue, and that's a real thing, and taking care of yourself first. That there's so many critical messages in this episode. So thank you both again so much for being my guests.
Thank you,
Thanks
Kim,
for
for
having
having us.
us.
You're welcome. And in closing, to move the needle in healthcare, we all need to raise our voices and we all need to care about each other. We already know that doctors need to care about patients, patients need to care about doctors too. So stand up, doctors, and let's stand up for doctors.